closely at these structures. For millennia, human beings poured vast amounts of wealth, labor, and engineering into constructing massive stone pyramids. Yet today, they sit completely empty, abandoned to the desert. Walk across an ocean, and you find the exact same story. Entirely separate civilizations built these same stepped monuments. These monuments were commissioned by rulers who intended their legacies to last for eternity. However, they are now dead spaces. Their inner chambers have been looted, their purpose is forgotten, and the empires that built them collapsed long ago. Compare that to a different geometry altogether. In the heart of Mecca sits the Kaaba, a simple, unadorned black cube. It lacks the towering height of the ancient pyramids, yet this simple cube remains one of the most enduring, constantly active gathering places in human history. To understand why, we have to examine how humans use numbers and shapes to construct societies. While some historical texts apply esoteric interpretations to these geometries, ideas that are controversial in mainstream Islamic scholarship, we are examining them as historical metaphors to understand these structures. The pyramid and the cube represent opposing blueprints for human society. The physical shape of a civilization's greatest monument reveals its internal logic. It shows whether a society is designed to enforce top-down control or to distribute guidance evenly across its people. Look at the structural geometry of a basic pyramid. A massive base narrows to one singular point at the top. This maps on to patriarchal kingship. Power and resources flow upward. The vast majority exist at the bottom, bearing the weight to elevate the ruler. The Quran points to a specific historical archetype of this arrogance, King Shaddad. According to tradition, he constructed a sprawling capital known as Iram of the Pillars, declaring himself a god on earth. The vertical pillars of Shaddad's city, the Imad, are the architectural lines of a top-down authoritarian regime. They represent the compulsion to build upward, elevating a single human being over everyone else. Because the engineering of a pyramid relies entirely on its peak, it is inherently fragile. When King Shaddad faced divine judgment and was struck down, his entire civilization collapsed with him. The pyramid acts as a machine for control, not stability. It contains a built-in expiration date because it depends entirely on one isolated, vulnerable point of failure. The cube offers a different logic, held together by exactly 12 visible edges. Across traditions, 12 is a divine signature of completeness, seen in 12 tribes, apostles, months, and Imams. The cube has no apex. Every edge is equal, with no privileged direction. This geometry shapes human behavior. The Kaaba is a center pilgrims circumambulate alongside thousands of absolute equals, rather than a monument climbed to assert dominance. The Prophet Muhammad used this egalitarian logic to dismantle the existing power structures of his time. He targeted the triple bondages of absolute kingship, the religious priesthood, and the predatory hoarding of wealth that defined the pyramid of 7th century Arabia. In this model, the vertical hierarchy was replaced by a system of centralized equality. Because the cube has no apex to climb, leadership shifted from being a dominating peak to a supportive framework, much like the 12 edges that hold the shape together while keeping the center open and accessible to everyone. The cube serves as the physical blueprint for that order. It proves that a society can maintain structure through mutual support rather than top-down subjugation. Human history often follows a frustrating pattern. Even after a revolution for equality, the temptation of power remains, and successive dynasties eventually rebuilt the pyramid within the community. You can watch centuries of these empires rise, hoard power, and eventually collapse. Against all of that noise, the Kaaba has maintained its quiet, unmoving endurance for thousands of years. We default back to hierarchical structures because the concentration of power is alluring. There is an undeniable human drive to secure a position elevated above the rest of the crowd. In a functional sense, a pyramid operates as a ladder. It is a massive engineering project built to allow one person, a pharaoh or a king, to ascend toward the heavens, while everyone else remains grounded. Once a ruler has made that climb, or dies trying, the ladder has outlived its purpose. It is left behind, useless to the people at the bottom, slowly weathering away in the sand. The Kaaba functions as a house, a permanent architectural anchor. Its purpose is to provide a center for humanity to gather around continuously, rather than facilitating a climb. True stability, whether for an individual or a civilization, does not come from fighting your way to an artificial peak. It comes from finding your center.